Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the NFL Draft is just 3 weeks away, and with recent videos coming out with rankings, with grading different prospects, different prospect reviews, and a lot of different information coming out over the past couple of weeks, and with just 3 weeks to go until the NFL Draft officially begins, I thought today would be a perfect time to come up with my mock draft 1.0 for the Detroit Lions. Now, I want to do 3 of these. I want to do one every single week. Obviously, this one next week, and then one right before the NFL Draft when we have a little bit more of a clear picture of what we might expect out of the Detroit Lions. Now, I did my best to base this draft class off of last year, right, going off of best player available, best player at a position of need, right, addressing positions of need when the talent and when the value is there, and trying to find a couple late round sleepers and play to the strengths of what Brad Holmes showed a season ago. So with all that being said, without any further ado, let's get right into this mock draft 1.0 for the Detroit Lions. Now, Aiden Hutchinson did go off the board at the number 1 overall pick. Not that it affected this mock draft in any way, but I wanted to tell you so that you knew what players were available at the number 2 overall selection. And as this is the first mock draft, and I do want to play out a couple different scenarios throughout the 3, today Kayvon Thibodeaux is the number 2 overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Kayvon Thibodeaux, the edge rusher out of Oregon, stands at 6'5", 250 pounds. On his 812 pass rushing snaps at the University of Oregon, he generated 22 sacks, 73 hurries, and 20 more quarterback hits on top of the 22 sacks. In my opinion, Kayvon Thibodeaux has the highest ceiling of any edge rusher in this draft class. He has the best tools of anybody in this draft class, and he has the best production out of just about anybody in this year's draft class. I mean, you're not going to find a better combination of size, speed, athleticism, bend, tools, ability, upside, ceiling. Kayvon Thibodeaux is the total package, right? He produced at the college level. He's got tools to get better. He's got every tool you could imagine with the bend of an elite edge rusher in the NFL. And if we draft Kayvon Thibodeaux, I really think that our pass rush could be one of the best pass rushes in the NFL next season, assuming we also sufficiently address the safety position at some point else in this year's draft class, as you are, of course, passing on Kyle Hamilton by taking Kayvon Thibodeaux at the number 2 overall selection. Kayvon Thibodeaux is just the total package. I mean, the production at college, the tools, the ceiling, I mean, just everything seems to be coming together. And for me, Kayvon Thibodeaux was already my number 1 edge rusher in this class, and he is the number 1 pick for the Detroit Lions in 2022. Now, moving on to the 32nd overall pick, this is actually the pick I believe the Lions will use as trade bait in the NFL Draft in order to trade down and acquire a little bit more draft capital in this year's class. Now, I have the Detroit Lions trading down with the Seattle Seahawks in this scenario, as Seattle passed on a quarterback at 9, but they look to move up to get that 5th-year option on Matt Corral at pick 32. In doing so, the Seattle Seahawks give up the 40th pick, the 109th pick, and the 153rd. This makes the Lions drop about 8 spots in the NFL Draft. It makes them drop out of the first round, but they do pick up a 4th and a 5th round pick on top of it. And as we know, Brad Holmes can certainly do some damage in the early day 3 of the NFL Draft. And I think getting those guys, getting some of those value players is going to be very key in this year's draft if Detroit wants to make a huge jump in year 2. So acquiring a few more picks, acquiring a few more opportunities to get these picks right is a huge thing for Brad Holmes. Now, getting onto the 34th pick, of course, jumping out of the first round and getting to the second selection of the second round of the NFL Draft, safety was the biggest need, and safety is the position that I address. Lewis Cine, the safety safety out of Georgia is the selection at 32. Lewis Sine standing at 6'2", 199 pounds, having a 4.37 40-yard dash at his combine with a 36.5-inch vertical and a 133-inch broad jump. Lewis Sine is by far the best safety available at this point in the NFL draft, having 1,008 deep coverage snaps with the Georgia Bulldogs and coming away with 14 passes defended and 2 interceptions. Lewis Sine's combination of speed, instincts, and tackling ability really make him a great asset for the Detroit Lions. The Lions need that coverage guy. They need that deep ranging free safety, and Lewis Sine standing at 6'2", having a 4.3 speed is something that you do not see out of a lot of safeties. It's something that you don't see very typically out of any safety in this year's class. Giving you that range, giving you that playmaking ability from anywhere on the field while still having the frame of a 6'2" safety, and with Lewis Sine's ability to just say F it and put his body on the line to make a tackle or to make a big hit, Lewis Sine I think would be a great addition to the Detroit Lions secondary. And with the Detroit Lions having a very weak safety position as of right now, addressing the safety position as early as possible and as often as possible was one of the big things that I wanted to put in to this NFL mock draft. Now jumping down just a few more spots to pick number 40, DeMarvin Leal was still on the board. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that say the defensive line doesn't really need that much work, right? If we're playing a 4-5-2 and you've already drafted Kayvon Thibodeaux, that means your defensive line is going to be obviously Kayvon Thibodeaux, Romeo Okwara as your starters, and then likely Levi and Aleem McNeil as your 2 interior linemen, rotating with Michael Brockers. And although I expect Levi Onwuzurike to take a massive step in year 2, I don't expect Michael Brockers to take a huge step in year 10. I expect him to regress. He didn't play all that well a season ago. He was a great leader, a great locker room guy, but as far as play on the field, he just wasn't anything exceptional. And the depth behind Aleem and Levi really isn't all that great. So I think going into the 2022 season with Michael Brockers, Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, and DeMarvin Leal, and then going into the future with the latter 3 is a really good move for the Detroit Lions. It continues to build up that trenches. I mean, DeMarvin Leal last year alone had 12.5 tackles for loss and 8.5 sacks, standing at 6'4", 290 pounds. I think a trio of Aleem, Levi, and DeMarvin Leal would be a great trio in the Detroit Lions front 7. I don't think you'd be able to run on that front very easily. Obviously, with the 2 edge rushers, Romeo Okwara and Kayvon Thibodeaux, having the upside of 10+ sacks each, that gives your pass rush a lot of opportunity to make some plays. And I think this could really help solidify the Detroit Lions front 7 for the very long-term future. So I think this pick at 40 makes a lot of sense. He was probably the best player available, right? I mean, Desmond Ridder was still on the board. There was a couple good running backs still on the board. But at this point, DeMarvin Leal was the best player at the biggest position of need. And since that's how Brad Holmes addressed the draft a season ago, that's how I wanted to emulate this mock draft here and now. Now at pick 66, this pick is going to be very controversial, but I decided that the best player at the biggest position of need still was Kirby Joseph, the safety from Illinois. The 6'1", 211-pound safety ran a 4.45 40-yard dash at his pro day list just a few weeks ago, and last season playing 440 deep free safety snaps with Illinois, came away with 5 interceptions and 2 more passes defended. He is a really good deep coverage safety, and I know that everybody's going to say, why would you take safety again, right? You address safety with Lewis Sine at pick 34. Why pick it again in the top 100? Safety is the worst position on the team right now. If you look at the safety position after the Detroit Lions moved Will Harris to full-time cornerback, it's Tracy Walker, CJ Moore, and Brady Breeze, and Jalen Elliott. 3 undrafted free agents and 1 quality starting player. There is no depth and there is no talent at the safety position right now outside of Tracy Walker, so addressing this position twice is not that outlandish. And if you want to say, why would we spend a top 100 pick on a position we've already addressed? Just last season, Brad Holmes spent back-to-back picks and 2 of the top 3 picks that the Lions had on interior defensive linemen that honestly wasn't even the biggest position of need, right? I'd say wide receiver was a bigger need. I would say that, even safety or cornerback was a bigger need at that point. But at that point in time, the best player available at a position of need, was the defensive tackle position. And that's why we came away with Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike in this class. I think the Detroit Lions come away with 2 safeties, and I wouldn't even be shocked if 2 safeties go off the board in the top 10 in the top 100 for the Detroit Lions in this year's class. Now, going down to the 97th pick, I know the Lions said they were done at linebacker. I know that rumor's been around that like they're not going to address linebacker anymore. They kind of have their linebackers, and playing a 4-2-5 next season, they're only going to play 2 linebackers on the field at a time for a majority of their standard coverages and for a majority of their standard play calls. Right? I mean, I'm almost confident that they're going to run some packages with 3 or even sometimes maybe 4 linebackers in a run-heavy team in a run-heavy set or something like that on goal line plays. Right, you're not going to have 5 defensive backs when they're on the 1-yard line and likely going to run the football. But I do think that the linebackers will not be as emphasized this season as last. But with this player falling to 97, having an elite RAS score, an elite raw athleticism score, with his production at the college level and just the upside that I see from him in the NFL, and knowing that Alex Anzalone might not be in the long-term plans for the future, I think this pick makes a lot of sense, as the Lions select Brandon Smith, the linebacker from Penn State, at the 97th overall selection. Now, Brandon Smith is a 6'3", 240-pound linebacker who in his career with the Penn State Nittany Lions totaled 132 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 6 passes defended, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. As I mentioned, he had a nearly perfect raw athleticism score, and with Alex Anzalone's future being a little bit murky, only signing a 1-year deal, I don't think the linebacker position is actually out of play for the Detroit Lions. This would give the Detroit Lions a linebacking core of Alex Anzalone, Jared Davis, Derek Barnes, Brandon Smith, Chris Board, and Anthony Pittman. Yes, it's not an elite linebacking core, but it is certainly a much better linebacking core than what they had a season ago. And if you look to the future, which is what this draft is about, drafting for the future, you go into 2023 with a linebacker trio and a linebacker rotation of Derek Barnes, Jared Davis, and Brandon Smith, all really young, really talented linebackers that have all shown flashes, right? Barnes and Davis have done so in the NFL, but Brandon Smith at the 97th overall position was the best player available at, again, a position of need, and the Lions address a big position of need for the future at the 97th overall pick. Now, with the top 100, I know there's a lot of people saying we need every single one of these players to start, and although I don't think every one of these players will start, I do think every one of these players will have a major impact. Kayvon Thibodeaux, Lewis Cine, and DeMarvin Leal are obvious, right? DeMarvin Leal may not start, but I do believe he will rotate a lot with the Detroit Lions defensive line, and I think he will get a lot of reps, assuming he is healthy in the 2022 NFL season. Kirby Joseph, I think, will battle with Lewis Cine for that deep fielding free safety, but the Detroit Lions running a 4-2-5 league, 5 defensive backs on the field, and I think they could even do a package with 6 where they include 3 safety sets like we saw a season ago with Tracy Walker, Will Harris, and Dean Marlowe all being on the field at the exact same time. I believe this would allow Will Harris to play a more traditional strong safety role where his coverage ability isn't as critical as his tackling ability and his ability to go step up and make plays near the line of scrimmage, which is where I truly believe Tracy Walker excels in the NFL. And then, of course, I do believe Brandon Smith will be more of a special teams player at the beginning, but I also believe he will get a lot of reps at the linebacker position, whether it be through injury like we saw last year, or whether it just be him flat out winning a spot or winning a role on the Detroit Lions defense. Now, getting outside the top 25, we're going to move just a little bit quicker, but at pick 109, the pick that we selected from the Seattle Seahawks in that trade from 32, the Lions addressed wide receiver, and they addressed the offense for the first time in this draft, picking up Velus Jones Jr., the wide receiver from Tennessee. Having 4.31 speed and having the ability to contribute at kick returner, punt returner, wide receiver, and running back, also, and the fact that he worked with the Detroit Lions at the Senior Bowl and the Lions really seemed to like him down in Mobile, Velus Jones Jr. makes a lot of sense. He put up very solid receiving numbers and very good kick and punt return numbers. He was involved in the pass game. He was involved in the rushing attack with the Tennessee Volunteers, and just overall, he was one of the most dynamic weapons in the SEC a season ago to really go unnoticed, right? This could be our Deebo Samuel, right? Our kick returner, our punt returner, our running back / wide receiver that you give handoffs, that you give touch passes, that you send deep. He can play a lot of different roles in this offense in a very similar way that I believe Khalif Raymond is doing so now. You get younger at the position. Again, Khalif Raymond signing a 2-year deal, but still not a long-term deal. Velus Jones will still have multiple years on his contract by time Khalif Raymond is no longer with the Detroit Lions, and I think he could be the long-term replacement for Khalif Raymond with the Detroit Lions system. And just overall, I think he could be that long-term deep threat / kick and punt return that the Lions have been missing for quite a while, right? They haven't really had a great kick and punt returner since Jamal Agnew, and they haven't really had a great deep threat since 2019 with Marvin Hall. Now, jumping down to pick 153, we're staying with the offensive side of the ball, selecting Jelani Woods, the 6'7" tight end from Virginia. Now, Jelani Woods has been getting a lot of hype recently from the NFL media and from NFL scouts about his ability to be a great receiver at the next level and his ability to be a phenomenal red zone threat at the next level in the NFL. I think he will be a phenomenal red zone threat, and I think he will be a matchup nightmare in the NFL, like Darren Waller type matchup nightmare, right? With just a bigger frame, bigger size, out muscling people to the football. I think he could be a great receiving tight end at the next level, and I think pairing him with TJ Hawkinson can create some tight end mismatches, as we know Jared Goff does like to use the tight ends quite a bit in the NFL. I think he would help the Detroit Lions red zone efficiency in 2022, and overall, I think he would just be an upgrade at the backup tight end position, allowing Brock Wright to be the third tight end, allowing the Lions to use 3 tight end sets a little bit more if they want to, allowing that flexibility with the offensive play calling and giving Ben Johnson just another offensive weapon to work with some versatility and some matchup probabilities that are going to give the Lions some favorable matchups each and every Sunday. Now, Kyren Williams was at 177, and I know running back is not a big need, and it's far from the biggest need in this draft class, but at this point in the draft, all the value, all of the top players were either running backs or tight ends. It was, Kyren Williams, it was Hassan Haskins, it was the running back from Arizona State, it was Abram Smith from Baylor, it was Jeremy Rucker from Ohio State, the tight end. It was all tight ends and running backs at the value position, and I don't think running back is that far off the table. Yes, DeAndre Swift is very good. Yes, Jamal Williams is very good. Even Craig Reynolds showed a lot of flashes a season ago, but adding competition and adding a home run hitter at your running back position, something I truly don't believe the Lions have right now is a home run hitter. That's what Kyren Williams could bring, right? He can compete and likely even beat out Jermar Jefferson for that 4th running back spot. He could even beat out Craig Reynolds for that 3rd running back spot. I think he would get some carries. I think he's just a big play weapon with amazing contact balance, having back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, having just amazing contact balance and legit breakaway speed. Kyren Williams could be a home run hitter for this offense, could add a big play element to this offense in what Brad Holmes might want to do. He might only get 2 to 3 touches a game, but he has that ability to take every single touch for a touchdown. I mean, he reminds me of Ty Johnson coming out of Maryland. If Ty Johnson was able to actually read a hole, and if Ty Johnson was actually able to, make some people miss and was actually able to read the gaps and was able to pick the right hole when going through the running play. Now, at 181, we are staying on the offensive side of the ball. And again, this is kind of how I think the draft is going to play out. I think they're going to go defensive heavy very, very early, and then they're going to patch up some holes on the offense, and they're going to get some role players on the offense late in the NFL draft to get some value on the offensive side of the ball, as they do still have some holes, but their holes are significantly less important than what we see on the defensive side of the ball. So at 181, we go offense for the 3rd time in a row, and we double up at wide receiver. Now, the Lions have put in some wide receiver help with DJ Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and obviously Josh Reynolds returning for another season with Khalif Raymond and Quintez Cephas. That's a pretty solid 5. I think Velus Jones is going to be more of a kick and punt returner than anything else, so that really leaves you for a 6th wide receiver, maybe a 7th good wide receiver on this roster. And as we know, the Lions wide receivers did face injury a season ago, right? Tyrell Williams missed time. Quintez Cephas missed some time. Even Josh Reynolds missed some time last season with injury, and DJ Chark is coming off an injury-riddled season where he missed a majority of the season. So getting depth at wide receiver is not a bad option, and I believe Charleston Rambo, the wide receiver from Miami, could be a really good depth pickup. He put up 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns with inconsistent quarterback play at the University of Miami a season ago. He was really the only big-time weapon at the University of Miami, but even knowing that, and even with very inconsistent quarterback play and not great team play around him, he put up nearly 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. He was a good player for a long time. He's been a 3-year starter at 2 different colleges, and I just think at I think at 181, addressing that wide receiver position one more time, a guy with some upside, a guy that broke out last year. This, again, could be your Amon-Ra St. Brown. This could be your late round sleeper, somebody that maybe should go a little higher, somebody that maybe is a little bit more talented than a 6th, late 5th round, early 6th round pick, but somebody that just falls through the cracks because of poor quarterback play, because of the helmet that they wore, or because of just the sheer amount of wide receivers that I expect to go in this year's draft. At pick 217, the Lions address the quarterback position, as I believe they will do so late in the draft, selecting Brock Purdy with the 217th pick. Brock Purdy was a 4-year starter at Iowa State, putting up over 1,200 yards, 80 touchdowns, and having just over 30 interceptions. I truly believe he will beat out Tim Boyle for that backup quarterback job, and I think if you put him into NFL play, he can get you some victories. Right, Iowa State is not necessarily known for having the most NFL talent, but Brock Purdy led this team to top 10 finishes in the AP polls. He led them to big wins over Oklahoma, big wins over Texas, time and time again throughout his collegiate career. And even without elite NFL talent around him, he continued to produce and he continued to churn out wins for the Cyclones. And I believe he would be a very good, if not even above average, backup quarterback in the NFL, adding some competition to that room, to a quarterback room that behind Jared Goff did not play very well a season ago. I think the competition aspect makes sense. I think Dan Campbell wants to push these guys to get better, and signing Tim Boyle to just a 1-year deal tells me that he's not comfortable long-term with Tim Boyle. I think he just re-signed Tim Boyle because the demon you know is better than the demon you don't know, right? So having that quarterback that you at least know what you're getting versus not knowing if you're going to be able to sign a better backup quarterback in free agency, I think is the reason Brad Holmes re-signed Tim Boyle to a 1-year deal. But I think they're going to look to upgrade that position throughout the NFL draft. And I think Brock Purdy is the perfect way to do that. And then Nick Ford, he was a 2-time first-team All-Pac-12 player on the offensive line, having the versatility to play every single position of the offensive line if injury does arise. He's been a very good player. Didn't allow a lot of sacks at the collegiate level. Is kind of falling down some draft boards a little bit for reasons that I am unaware of. But from what I've seen, he's just a very good blocker, right? Doesn't allow the quarterback to get through, doesn't commit a lot of penalties. Again, 2-time first-team All-Pac-12. Utah starter for 4 years, played every single position at the collegiate level, right? You just take a flyer on the offensive line at the end of the draft to see if maybe you can upgrade, right? If Logan Stenberg isn't working out, if, Tommy Kramer, you want a little bit of an upgrade or want some competition there, or you just want a camp body for the preseason, I think Nick Ford can be a pretty interesting player. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this mock draft. What do you think about doubling up at safety and wide receiver? What do you think about Kayvon Thibodeau as the number 2 overall pick? And what would you grade this draft class if it were to come true? I'd be very curious to you guys think. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!